Yesterday's video was on the Try Guys, and a lot of you, to your credit, had no clue who the Try Guys were. I'll tell you something. The Try Guys are what happen when you're not exposed to golf at a young age. We need to grow this game. The official World Golf Ranking System is another hurdle in growing this game and preventing kids overseas into turning out like the Try Guys. This is a crime against humanity. And the sad truth about the official World Golf Ranking System, it doesn't make any sense. No one understands it. Not me, not you, and certainly not Matt Adams and Dom from the Fairways of Golf. Let's get to them now.
I think the issue I have is the step stools of the points. So, like, I can understand a strokes gain rating and then ranking by that, but they don't do that. They take the stroke gain rating and they turn it into performance points.
The strokes gained rating, a system developed by Dr. Mark Brody, a doctor at Columbia, and a person with whom I've had correspondence with over Twitter, and I've asked him a few questions. These strokes gained, the rating system, are then translated over into performance points, as Dom correctly points out. On Twitter, I asked Dr. Mark Brody, what is the relationship, if any, between strokes gained, stroke average, and OWGR? Henny Duplessis is 9th on the DP World Tour stroke average list and 182 in the world. Mark Brody replied, stroke average doesn't account for weather and course difficulty, and his rank among DPWT isn't comparable to ranking all players. Strokes gained adjusts scores for course difficulty and strength of field. OWGR places a premium on high finishes that strokes gained does not. I'm not fluent in strokes gained yet, this whole concept, but from my research, it does seem that it differentiates between a lie in the fairway and a lie in the rough. But we all know you can have a bad lie in the fairway and a good lie in the rough. And I also believe strokes gained does not currently differentiate between a flat, straightforward 5-footer and a tricky left to right 5-footer. Just something to think about. Point being that I don't think the strokes gained really encompasses all the variables that can differentiate one 200-yard shot from another 200-yard shot. And as Dr. Mark Brody himself admits, luck is such a critical part of golf. When an outcome is entirely based on skill, performance can be measured by the outcome. Most every outcome, including golf, has elements of skill and luck, in which case it is important to focus on the process, not just the outcome.
And then they add up the performance points. And then they make a percentage of that. And then that's the world ranking points. And then they distribute the world ranking points by a percentage depending on how they finish in the tournament. It's just...
Dom correctly explains how the system works, but he doesn't really delve into why they formulated it this way. Eventually, we'll get to the why. As in, why are we doing it this way when it's so convoluted?
It might be
It's just
easier to
confusing. It's so
understand
confusing.
it if you think of it in terms of a scale.
Matt Adams proceeds to muddy the waters. We're not getting to the signal, only adding more noise at this point.
And each individual event is going to arrive at a strokes gain average that equates to a number on that scale.
I think Matt actually means that each event is going to come up with a total field point system as per the official World Golf Ranking slide before, that is comprised of the stroke gains average equated to a performance points number, and these performance points numbers are added together to tell you about how much the total field is worth at any given event. Matt needed to maybe spend a little bit more time digesting the material.
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to stabilize how they arrive at a number.
Pretty sure Matt means the official World Golf Ranking is trying to justify how they are arriving at certain point totals for any given event.
What they're doing is other than, if you please, the majors and the players.
So for the majors and the players championships, they're still going to have a fixed amount for the total field rating, even though this amount may not accurately reflect the strength of the field, a requirement that the other tournaments need to show to justify their total field rating.
They're taking politics out of how they arrive at the world rankings.
Except for the majors, 3 of which are held in the United States, and the Players' Championship, which again is held in the United States.
Follow me? They're taking politics out of it.
Politics is why it is the way it is right now.
But what they're doing is they're taking those tours around the world and going, okay, there's no guaranteed minimum points.
Except, of course, the majors and the Players' Championship. You will see through the rest of this video that the official World Golf Ranking System is now set up like a Thanksgiving potluck dinner. And what you're eating depends on what tour you are, because what tour you're on determines who's bringing what to this potluck dinner.
You either have a strength of field that equates to the points that you will be awarded, or you don't.
And now that we're starting this whole new system at this point in time, those in power and those tours, namely the PGA Tour, that has the players with the largest amount of points, are going to naturally thereby have the strength of field numbers in all of their tournaments. It's a echo chamber of points at this point for the PGA Tour. And if you want to get points, you got to go to the PGA Tour and get them, I guess, and then bring them back to your tour.
So I do see in this new structure that there's a certain element of the rich getting richer, because that's where the majority of the best players are going to be playing.
Matt, it's not just a certain element. To go back to the Thanksgiving potluck analogy, if you're on the PGA Tour, everyone's bringing turkeys and candied yams and delicious pumpkin pie. If you're on the other tours, every dude is just bringing an old can of cranberry jelly and old gravy, but there's no turkey. No one's bringing any delicious turkey.
And their metric, their individual measure of their individual strokes gained performance is going to be done on a 2-year basis.
In what other sport do you look at a 2-year cycle? I think tennis does 1 year. Every year it kind of reboots. So why would you think that something you did 24 months ago would affect how good you are at this moment? We don't look back to the Super Bowl champions from 2 years ago. You got to stay fresh and present, especially in sports.
With more recent performance weighed more than the decaying performance back on the 2 years, which I also like. And I like that because of the fact that it's front-end loaded instead of back-end loaded. I think the ranking should be a reflection of who's playing well right now.
Someone randomly determined that the magic number is 13 weeks, as in the most recent 13 weeks get weighted more, but you still get consideration for your performances up to the 2-year mark. This should have been stopped in the infancy. Someone should have raised their hand on the table and said, no, these numbers are all arbitrary. Let's focus on a 1-year cycle and potentially start doing things like tennis does it.
Because you want the rankings to be a reflection of what's happening right now. And that's another thing that they're trying to take into account.
As Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, states, disruption is a part of every business. Noting that every business is subject to being disrupted, and tying in the fact that the official World Golf Rankings should reflect who the best players are right now, how do you not have the official World Golf Rankings quickly adapt their standards to accommodate the Liv golfers, these majestic disruptors of golf?
So after you have your strokes gained performance, which again, I use the example saying in your respective tour, whatever tour you're playing on, you could be doing fantastic. You'd be doing great. You may have this incredible strokes gained performance. And strokes gain, again, is a measure against the average of the field.
So if you really wanted to improve your strokes gained, which is determined by the average of the field, you'd want a bottom heavy tournament, wouldn't you? Something like the Italian Open, where there was over 30 players outside the top 1,000 of the world, but only 10 players in the top 100 of the world. Therefore, the overall average should be much lower because of the lower ranked players, making you look much, much better in comparison to the average of that field. And that's what Roy McIlroy did.
In various performance categories: driving accuracy, driving distance, approach to green, scrambling, putting, etc. You could be great with your overall strokes gained total. Great. But ultimately, you're still going to be weighed against the strength of your field.
Matt just said strokes gained is a measure against the average of the field. That's why I've left it here the whole time. He conflates the strokes gained versus the performance points, which are in relation to the strength of the field. For the strength of the field, you add up all the performance points, which are based on each player's individual strokes gained.
So you could be the number one player in the world, but if you play at an event that has a really bad strength of field, then when all those numbers are added up, and whatever that number is, it's put against the scale.
Well, if what Matt said earlier is true, that the strokes gained is measured against the average of the field, you'd want to be in a weak field because you'd probably be much higher than the average score. However, the performance points available will be less because the guys on the lower end, to go back to the potluck dinner analogy, are basically bringing oatmeal to the tournament. So let's not conflate strokes gained, which you pointed out was against the average of the field, versus the strength of field, which is a total of all the performance points.
That will determine the points that are given to individual players therein.
Not sure if this is what Matt is getting at, because I'm very confused about how he's explaining this. But once the performance points are added up, the winner gets a certain percentage, second place gets a percentage, so on and so forth. But they're only getting a percentage of a number that reflects the strength of the field, because again, the strength of the field is a combination of all the performance points that the players are bringing to the tournament. And again, it could be guys bringing turkey if they're great players, could be guys bringing oatmeal if they're lower level players.
I don't know whether that helped explain it a little bit better, but
It didn't.
I find it hard to believe that any tour that's not the PGA Tour will be able to collect points that have any value at all.
Bingo, Dom. Because everyone is bringing oatmeal to this potluck dinner. No one's getting their protein.
Like, isn't this
Well,
going to hurt the DP World Tour a lot?
no, I don't think it's going to hurt them a lot.
Matt oddly can't see it hurting the DP World Tour, but does note it will hurt the other tours.
I think it's going to hurt the tours that are around them. Remember, there's like 7 major world tours right now. And again, I'm
You
saying,
mean like the Sunshine Tour, stuff like that?
Yes.
It's so odd to me that the PGA Tour and the official World Golf Rankings are so focused on the strength of field numbers being accurate that they come up with these convoluted formulas, and then at the final stage, as you can see from the Zozo Championship, just shove anyone in there anyway. They took, 5 or 6 off the Japanese Tour money list to get into the tournament for the Zozo. They also just have sponsors exemptions. Why make it so that you have to chase Rory McIlroy and these guys with these pieces of turkey around the world to get some of that turkey, when you could have it just like you had in the past, where certain events were worth a lot of points and you went there to try to win those points. Make it tournament focused and tournament based for the official World Golf Ranking rather than player carrying around potluck dinner focused.
It's good in terms of true equity to reflect where the strongest players are.
So the official World Golf Rankings is taking the opportunity to confirm that the strongest players are there on the PGA Tour because they're the strongest fields that have the strongest players.
But we know where the strongest players are, and those rankings are just going to get stronger.
Sounds very equitable.
If you tick all the boxes,
Matt discusses how Liv could check all the boxes if it, for example, moved to a 72-hole format, but fails to note that the PGA Tour itself doesn't check all the boxes for many of its tournaments to get official World Golf Rankings. There are a lot of quote-unquote exceptions if you look into it. I tweeted this with Bob Harrig, the Sports Illustrated author, and there's at least 12 out of the 47 PGA Tour tournaments that don't follow or check all the boxes to get the official World Golf Ranking points.
In front of me, which you can go to OWGR.com, that's the world ranking site, I have the strokes gained world rating and corresponding performance points right now.
Seems like with the knowledge that we've acquired, we're going to do some real math.
Which is interesting. So like 1, 2, 3, Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Smith. They're all like 2 point something in the strokes gained world rating, and their corresponding performance points are like 11 point something, 12 point something. But again, to your point, it doesn't equate to world ranking. So like Daniel Berger is ranked 30th in the world, but he's like 14 on this list.
This reflects, at least in part, I believe, what Dr. Brody tweeted me earlier, and I posted in the earlier part of this video, that official World Golf Rankings are more based on your performance and placement in tournaments.
So it's interesting.
Interesting here means I don't make any sense of this.
and wait a minute, let's go Daniel Berger then. What is his strokes gain rating right now?
1.58 and
Okay,
6.63
and-
performance points.
Okay, so he's 1.58, and then again, that equates to a scale. What is his performance points?
6.63.
Every time Matt says scale, think of the Price is Right wheel. You know, you get up there on both tippy toes and pull it down and hope you get $1.
Now I might be losing you, but hold on, I'll explain.
Okay, so all of that gets added up when he's playing to determine the strength of a field. It's actually
His
a
performance
field.
points get added.
Yeah, field ratings.
Added to the 1.5, right?
I don't understand what you asked me, Dom, please.
His strokes gained rating is 1.58 and his performance points are 6.6. You add those two together. Those numbers get added together, and those are the points that count towards any particular event he's in, correct?
No, I do not believe that they get added together.
The price is wrong, Dom. You don't add the strokes gained with the performance points. The strokes gained match up with a Price is Right wheel that tells you how many performance points you get because of your strokes gained. This just shows you no matter how much time these guys spend there going through this together, it's still kind of incomprehensible. Why don't we, as a big boy pants golf community, come up with a disruptor to the official World Golf Ranking as much as Liv has become a disruptor to boring golf?